Welcome to the Infinite Response Spotlight on the VAX77's pedal configurations. The VAX77, as you may know, is an advanced MIDI controller that features true polyphonic aftertouch, high-res velocity MIDI, 77 brush-textured keys with a remarkably fast and very dynamic action, and of course the folding portability, 50 pounds total in the included soft rolling case, the same weight in our optional flight cases. The feature we're going to cover here is implementation of foot pedals with the VAX77. The VAX has 4 pedal inputs on the right end cap. One is a dedicated sustain pedal. The other 3 are assignable to any of 3 types of keyboard pedals: latching, non-latching, or expression. The pedals have to be set up the first time you start with a new VAX, or any time you add new pedals to the inputs. As long as you are using the same pedal setup each time with your VAX from then on, you will only have to do the calibration this one time. This setup is accomplished by accessing the pedal calibration screen, which is one screen down from the main setup window, and pressing the blue front panel button to begin recalibration. With each pedal you have plugged in, you will move the pedal through its full range to establish its minimums and maximums, and use the invert function to convert any pedal with opposite polarity, so that zeros are always the up or off position and 127s are the down or on position. It's worth noting here that you also want to slide the modulation slider and pitch bend wheel back and forth to calibrate them as well, and then move out of the pedal calibration window by exiting setup mode to save the configuration to flash memory. This routine easily accommodates using most any brand of keyboard pedal you might already own or prefer to buy. The 3 assignable pedals are automatically assigned to specific MIDI controller numbers: A to MIDI control number 4, B to 11, which is expression, and pedal C to control number 12. These are the defaults in all modes, including host control, playlist, and quick sets. If you want the A, B, or C pedals assigned differently, you can do that within the individual MIDI channel setup windows in the ascending screens above the main setup page. For example, if your sampled piano is listening on MIDI channel 1, you may want to reassign pedal A to MIDI controller 66, sostenuto. And if your clone wheel B3 plugin is listening on MIDI channel 2, you may want to identify a new control number for pedal A to operate the Leslie speed switch on that channel. And beyond reassigning the pedal control numbers on the MIDI channel level, they can even be reassigned on a per patch basis in playlist mode. Alternatively, if you're using virtual instruments and plugin host, instead of changing the pedal control values from 4, 11, and 12, pedal actions can easily be assigned to those default numbers through the Learn functions of most plugins. There are 3 different types of pedals that are normally used with the VAX: latching, non-latching, and expression. A latching foot switch means you press the foot switch to activate and press again to deactivate. Its ideal use is as an effect on-off switch or as a Leslie speed control. A non-latching foot switch is also known as a momentary switch and means that you press the foot switch to activate and then release the pedal to deactivate. A sustain pedal is the best example of a non-latching pedal. Last, we have expression pedals. For keyboards, this type of pedal sends a continuous sweep of MIDI values from 0 to 127. These values can be assigned to different MIDI control numbers to accomplish different purposes, though expression or volume are the most common uses of this pedal. The sustain pedal, as noted, is usually a non-latching pedal. Standard sustain pedals such as the Yamaha FC4 send a simple 127 for on or 0 for off. On MIDI control number 64, the default number for sustain, those on and off messages will trigger simple sustain effects on practically every keyboard patch. More modern virtual piano instruments may also support half pedaling, which can be accomplished with special sustain pedals that send continuous MIDI messages, like the Yamaha FC3 or even an expression pedal if that were your only choice. The FC3 sends a continuous stream of controller data from 0 through 127, which can trigger lesser amounts than full sustain, depending on the virtual instrument you are playing and the pedal position you choose. Some sampled pianos may only support full, half, and off sustain positions, but PianoTech, a model piano instrument, allows progressive amounts of sustain relative to the increments of 0 to 127 in the pedal's range. In addition to the various input signals from the different types of sustain pedals that work with the VAX, the keyboard can interpret and transmit MIDI data in different ways as well. This can be useful if the only type of pedal you have available needs to be customized to sustain. For instance, if you forget your sustain pedal for a gig and only have an expression pedal in your bag. The three sustain mode choices are on and off, 3-zone, and full range, all of which are global settings assigned in the main setup page. When set to on-off, the VAX77 will only send a 0 or 127 in response to the pedal position. When pressed, this simply transmits on when crossing the midway point or off when released. When set to 3-zone, a full-range expression-type pedal is divided into 3 zones: off, half pedal, and on. The VAX sends value 0, 64, or 127 whenever the pedal crosses into an adjacent zone. This is useful on many sampled pianos that recognize half pedal. Full range transmits all pedal values between 0 and 127, corresponding to the exact pedal position. This setting is most effective with model keyboard instruments like PianoTech that support varying amounts of sustain relative to the exact pedal position. The final assignment choices for pedals A, B, and C are for proprietary VAX purposes. These choices are global and are made in the main setup page. Most importantly, 3 of these settings disable the transmission of the default MIDI controller values discussed previously. Norm is the default setting for all 3 pedals and allows the pedals to output MIDI controller values as usual. Program Change Plus does in fact mute the MIDI controller transmission of a given pedal and instead sends an incremental +1 program change MIDI message, which will advance to the next patch in host control and properly configured sound sources. Program Change Minus does the same thing except for moving to the previous patch. The octave setting, when enabled on any of the 3 assignable pedals, again mutes the standard controller messages, but allows a pedal to act much like the octave button on the VAX77 front panel. You can press the pedal at will, thereby shifting the VAX77 keyboard by the amount specified in the octave transpose window on the main setup page. The front panel button operates as a latching switch, which would work well for longer passages of transposition. The pedal function, especially if you use a non-latching sustain-type pedal, could best be used for temporary shifts of a full octave, for example when you quickly need to access the top octave of an 88-note piano instrument. Whether by pedal or button, the octave function can now be specified for diatonic transpose amounts of less than an octave if one wants to transpose the key of a song without changing playing positions on the keyboard. Lastly, the VAX has a new high-res setting for the 3 assignable pedal inputs. This setting does allow for transmission of chosen MIDI control numbers, but in fact actually uses 2 control numbers to transmit higher resolution data. A more detailed explanation can be found in the VAX user manual, but a great use of this feature would be if one wants to use an expression pedal or ribbon controller to control pitch. A much finer control of pitch can be achieved with this high-res setting, as the control voltage signal from the physical controller is being converted into over 12,000 steps of MIDI control, over 10 times the resolution from the standard 127 steps. Overall, there is an extreme amount of flexibility in the pedal implementation on the VAX, both in the types and brands of pedals one can use, and the messages that the VAX can interpret and send to your sounds. For more detailed explanations of many of the features mentioned here, please email Infinite Response or download the VAX user manual. For more information in general, or to purchase a VAX77, please visit the website or call our rig chat line at 512-535-5599. Thanks for watching.